Hi, Bill Vales here again with Anita Honkonen and another edition of Littleton Rocks. Kind of a marathon.
I guess so.
Show a little bit.
And they can tell because we have the same clothes on.
Oh, that's true. You're not supposed to give stuff like that away. So we're going to talk now in this segment. I'd like to talk a little bit about our mineral club that we're a member of and how that supports our addiction to minerals and rocks and those sorts of things, and so a little bit more about how we go about identifying things in the field and things like that. How long have you been a member of Neshoba Valley Mineralogical Society?
I've lost track. I want to say 12 years maybe, about that. Like I said in the previous episode, I kind of worked in here because I was looking for someone to help my earth science teachers group, and I stuck with it, and then got roped into being secretary and writing the newsletter. Which I actually really like, writing the newsletter.
Do you? Because I used to write the newsletter.
Did you? I didn't know that.
Yes, I wrote that for many years, back in the prior to email stages. Where I take the little stamp and I put the NVMS stamp on there and then.
And I think that's why I actually like it now. I do it all online, emailing it to people. And it's so much easier to make an interesting newsletter because not only can I put in pictures from our collecting trips and from our meetings and things, but I include a thing about what's interesting in the news of minerals, hopefully, but earth sciences in a broader sense, so that, I'm picking through things that are coming out on the news and people that are in the club that might be interested but don't have the time to sit there and, look and they say, oh, that interests me or not.
You really do a good job on that. I can tell that you were a teacher because you're presenting things that are consistent with either what we're talking about at the club or consistent with geology or mineralogy or lapidary.
It's always nice when I can send out an edition that that can have a theme to it almost, But, the club is the Mineralogical Society, so we do try to focus on the mineral aspect of things, although as long as it's earth science related, we're good. And so when we have our club meetings and we always have a program with a speaker, we learn some really interesting things, whether it's taking a look at the Holy Land and sort of the history and some of the geology of that, or I did the presentation on the ring dikes of New Hampshire, the Ossipee area.
That was great.
And you've given presentations on the White Mountains and a number of different topics. There's always that informative thing for our regular meetings.
The club always supports different threads of interest that people have. Now, the club has been around for a long time.
Yeah, we've had, I think our last meeting, we meet the second Tuesday of every month.
We got to get this right. The second Tuesday of the month, but we don't meet in July.
In August.
In August.
Right. Okay. And we meet at the J.V. Fletcher Library in Westford.
Right. 7 o'clock, second Tuesday of the month.
And we always welcome visitors and hope they become interested and stay. And then we also, organize collecting trips periodically. Or even though we went into the Harvard Natural History Museum as a club a month ago, month and a half ago.
We're doing another show about our trips into, Carol and I take a lot of trips into Cambridge and Boston, so we put that one there. But we have gone to several museums. We went to the Benesky Museum out in the western part of the state.
Yeah, which is well worth the trip. And the club's gone down to the Natural History Museum in Yale too at one point. But
I've never gone there. Boy, I would
I missed that trip too, actually.
Go there.
And collecting trips locally, I think in years past, the club has actually taken like overnight trips up further north. But most of our trips now are, whether we can do it in one day. Yeah. Which actually you can get quite a ways in one day.
You really can, and I know we took I led a field trip here at Oak Hill. We didn't do any collecting, but we got to see the geology of the area and talk about that.
Right.
I know one place that we've taken a trip to because we have a member that's very active up there is the Alstead, New Hampshire area, and that.
You want to see this?
Yeah, talk about what that is.
So this area has a lot of pegmatites, which we talked about in the previous episode. What we have here is a piece of a pegmatite. This is quartz on this side, right? And unlike these lovely pieces of quartz we were showing before with the beautiful pencil shape to the crystal, this doesn't, where do we have it? Yeah, this being a classic, boy, if you can find that, it's great, okay? This way, right? This is what we would call massive quartz, which it doesn't have that shape to it, right? You would identify this by the luster, which is the way it reflects light, kind of a glassy look, and the hardness to it, which would be 7, right? But the really interesting piece in this is this at the end, right? Which is a piece of beryl, right? So you mentioned Beryl Mountain before, What we see here is part of a beryl crystal. God, this is off this way. And we can see one crystal face here, a crystal face here, here, and here. Right?
So if you were to look at beryl, it has a
barrel shape to it,
a hexagonal, which is 6 sides.
6 sides.
And there we have 4 sides.
Right. Yes, so we're missing this part and this part, right? Actually very similar to a quartz crystal in that sense, the barrel shape to it, but beryl will not have the point on it that the quartz crystal has, right? And the hardness will be different. This is a little harder, okay, than the quartz crystal will be. I mentioned at one point our club president found a lovely beryl crystal.
Yeah, she did.
And it was a nice green.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally what you want to find is something that's gemstone type thing, that it's got a clarity to it. This beryl crystal does not have clarity to it, right?
Right.
But they were mined for the beryllium that's in them.
Right, and that was, Beryl Mountain was quite a secret during World War II because of the strategic use for the beryllium.
Right.
For the Manhattan Project.
Right. You talked about the lime quarry over in Chelmsford. One of the things during World War II is the scheelite there. And for the life of me, it just went out of my mind what it was, but it also had military significance during World War II. Not a huge deposit, so I don't think it ended up being worth anything. But at that time, they were looking a lot in New England for deposits of valuable minerals, and beryllium would be one of them.
I think beryllium was the they made the trigger for the atomic bomb out of beryllium because it tended to generate a lot of neutrons, I believe, and they needed a lot of that for triggering the bomb. But that was quite a secret, and now it's just a wonderful collecting site.
Yes. Things change, for purposes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, it's always fun when the club can go out and collecting. Because it's better to go out with a group. It's more fun that way. And even if you don't find anything,
it's safer.
It's safer, and you inevitably have people that have more experience than others who can guide and help people. And it just sometimes we find nothing. Okay, but it's always nice to be outside.
It is. And you know what I found? We did a series of shows up in the area of, it was southern New Hampshire, where we had all those mica deposits. And we were able to arrange some shows with some of the old miners that had worked those areas. And the knowledge that some of these old timers have about the way things were and where minerals were found and how they went about excavating them was really quite interesting.
Yeah. I remember one trip we went down to Rhode Island. We went to Diamond Hill, which doesn't have diamonds. It's because of the quartz crystals that are there. Sitting on top of the hill, having lunch. It was just, beautiful day. And then we went over to Sneech Pond, which is another site where, unfortunately, we didn't find much because you really have to dig down nowadays. But one of the things we were looking for there was a mineral called Cumberland Knight, which is state rock of the state rock of Rhode Island.
Which now, what did we say the bowenite was? The state
gemstone, maybe?
State gemstone.
Maybe it's a gemstone. One or the other. I don't know. It's Rhode Island. But one of the things that we kept running into was not Cumberland Knight, because Cumberland Knight, you have your little things here, is actually magnetic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's sometimes when we go collecting, you don't think about taking a magnet as a tool. I actually keep one in my backpack.
I always keep these little.
Yeah, you got big ones. I just got one of those little stick ones, And it was really helpful because if you're looking for the Cumberland Knight, you just walk along with your magnet and so it tends to be really, this is what I carry because it's little.
But I'd lose it.
Well, I actually have a little tube that I keep it in, so it's not by itself.
I'd lose the tube.
But Cumberland Knight actually is pretty dark like this, right? And, I would just try, and this is not magnetic at all, right? And there's stuff there that isn't magnetic. It's actually this. This is hematite. Hematite is actually an iron oxide. And it comes in a lot of different forms. Some people might actually have hematite for jewelry. It can be quite metallic looking and shiny. Right? Obviously, it's a little heavy for its size because it's iron oxide. But another way of telling this is hematite, Bill's come with all kinds of little tools here.
In my scratch test kit is a...
Right, so he has his little points here to do a hardness test, right? Which we're not going to do now, right? Piece of glass, which is good for that. But he has what's called a streak plate, which may look like a piece of bathroom tile to you. In essence, it is, but it's not glazed, right? So if you look at this on all sides, it's not glazed like bathroom tile, right? And the streak plate is actually quite useful because all minerals have a characteristic color of the streak. And the streak is actually the color of the mineral if you powdered it, right? So if you took I could take a hammer to this, right, and smash it into powder and get a streak. Most geologists don't want to do that because you lose your sample when you do that. So one of the things you can do is get something like this and you do a streak test, which is basically like children taking chalk and drawing on the sidewalk with it, right? You just take the mineral and you drag it across the streak plate and you get some kind of mark, right? Now this mineral here is very black.
Yeah, right? Look at that, how
but
black
when
that
I
is.
do this, I'm gonna do it this way because it's probably better, right? When I do that, the streak is, I don't know if the color on here shows up, is a rusty reddish color, okay? That's characteristic of hematite, whether it's a blackish hematite, a silvery hematite. Hematite can be reddish in color. They will all have that streak all the time, no matter what. Another mineral that's useful for is something like this really nice piece of fluorite, right? which has this bluish color, right? Fluorite can be green, purple, yellowish color, a wide range of colors, but if you do a streak test on this, it would always have a white streak. You scratch it on here, and the streak, you can't even see it on this. Actually, because it's white. Actually, when I was teaching, we had black streak plates and white streak plates, and so you use the black plate for light-colored minerals, so forth. But you know, the streak, no matter what color of the fluorite, is going to be white. Right? So it's actually can be a useful tool. Honestly, I don't walk around with a streak plate.
Yeah.
There are times I wish I do.
Yes,
But that's actually a nice size one too.
Yeah.
But you know, when we were down in Sneech Pond in Rhode Island looking for the Cumberland Knight, the magnet was really very useful, and a streak plate would have been useful because the magnetite doesn't have a red streak, right? It would have been magnetic, right?
Yep.
And the hematite, non-magnetic, and it has the red streak.
Right.
So two minerals that look a lot alike, you can tell apart fairly easily.
So some common instruments that serve as tools are magnets.
Yes.
Magnets are useful to bring.
Yep.
You might bring a streak plate.
You might.
Based on what we just learned about the powdered color.
This nice piece of glass that Bill has in his kit, right, is really great because it's a thicker piece, right? You know, technically, you could take a piece of window glass with you outside, but it breaks really easily, right? And it's dangerous that way, you know. So if you had a thicker piece of glass like this, that's great because if you can scratch glass, it's harder than a 5.5. So it gives you a little bit of a dividing point between actually, you know, harder minerals and softer minerals.
So you could bring a nail.
You could.
You
Nails,
could bring a penny.
Yeah.
And you always have your fingernail.
You always have your fingernail.
You always have your fingernail, which is
And
useful.
instead of nail, one of the things, a lot of people have this, a lot of guys in particular, but is a little pocket knife.
A little pocket knife.
You know, as opposed to the nail would work also.
Yeah. And of course, as we mentioned last time, you have to bring some magnification.
Yeah. And you can go online and you can find, you know, lots of different loops. Yeah. L-O-U-P-E, right? L-O-U-P-E.
L-O-U-P-E.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a little accent grave over
Yeah,
the E?
is there?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. So something like, you know, honestly, you probably don't want to spend a ton of money on it because it's going to get scratched up, or you're going to drop it, you're going to lose it. Okay.
Yeah. Or you're going to lose the whole thing.
Which happens.
Usually do.
Yep.
And always bring with you when you're collecting, just so you know, glasses. You know, you need some sort of eye protection.
I feel like this old house now when they say, you know, always wear your eye protection
when
you use the power tools. But it is true. Okay.
And sometimes helmets.
Yeah. But chips fly. When you're hitting rocks, things are going to fly, and you need to wear some eye protection. Absolutely. Gloves are a great thing to protect you. You know.
Gloves are important. Vests. You know, I find safety vests. So,
the one thing that you need to think about safety things, and we've talked about the rock hammers, right? They need to be rock hammers. Do never use a wood hammer, right? Carpentry hammer for when you're going out. Never use a carpentry chisel. You should use a cold chisel, right, for masonry stuff, because the carpentry tools are not designed to be hitting hard things like this, and they can shatter, right?
Interesting.
They'll splinter. It's not good. Should never do that.
Interesting.
Yeah, last thing you want to do is get, you know, something breaking off and, you know, going into your leg when you're out way in the woods, you know.
Right. You know, this caught my eye. Looking at this when you place this barrel up here, this little
bit of smoky.
Yeah, a little bit of smoky.
Yeah.
Smoky, or could that be citrine?
It actually looks a little more like citrine. And actually, the fact of the matter is, from where it's located, I would almost wonder if it's just not rust stained.
Meaning there's iron in there.
Iron, there was iron in there.
Yeah.
Hard to tell. Like when I was collecting this thing from Arkansas, a lot of the minerals, a lot of the quartz there is orangey color, right?
Oh.
And you clean it, get rid of the iron oxide. That's the rust that's basically on it before you get that nice clean crystal. Because typically, smoky quartz, like you had that beautiful piece of smoky quartz, right?
I keep on losing it.
I know, from from Moat Mountain.
Yep.
Smoky quartz is actually that color
right here
because of radiation.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of uranium.
Uranium,
yeah.
yeah.
Uranium.
And we know from New England, right? You know, if you have a house and you've had a radon test, right, that granites have radioactive elements in them.
Absolutely.
And it's not a problem. Okay, and people have been living here for thousands of years,
right.
And it's not an issue. Unless you're in an enclosed house and the radon's building up and stuff. But the radiation that's coming from those sometimes is stronger in some areas, and it will cause that to be smoky.
Yep.
Yeah. And, you know, that's a visual sign that we can see really easily. There are minerals that are fluorescent.
Fluorescent. Yeah, there's...
that you're not going to see with the naked eye, and
right.
That's a subcategory. We've had club members that are really into fluorescent minerals, and they are really cool to look at.
They really are.
If you have the proper equipment.
Right.
They may be terribly boring if you don't have the
well, a fluorescent rock may look as spectacular as this, which is not very spectacular.
Right.
But when you put it under a fluorescent light, and this has this particular light has a short wave and long wave. This one you have to plug in, but they do sell some that
flashlight.
Yeah,
type
flashlight
of things,
type, which I.
Yeah. Not the cheapo ones that you buy that say, oh, you can detect if this is, you know, if someone's, you know, had bathroom issues or something somewhere in the hotel room, whatever. But this one's nice because it's got long and short wave on it. Yeah. We were talking about whether we had anything that fluoresces here, and we're not going to be able to show because it's right here in the studio.
The fluorescent on this would blow your mind.
Yeah, really.
This, I put this under the light the other night.
Really?
And the pink on this was unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Love to see that. I'm almost willing to bet that this might fluoresce too, the calcite.
I bet that would.
Yeah.
I bet that would.
There's certain minerals that are more likely to fluoresce than others, right? Yeah. So a piece of like this calcite, right, which is referred to as a dogtooth calcite because of the pointy ends on it, right? Not to be confused with quartz, because it, even though it has a pointy end, it doesn't have the barrel-shaped crystal, and it has a hardness of 3. So I cannot scratch this with my fingernail, okay? But that piece of glass or your nail should be able to scratch this, and we're not going to do that because it's too nice a piece to do. We know what it is, right? Yeah, but if it was if we were in the darkness, yeah. So that's a bit of an investment, and was it last year? I was down in New Jersey, Franklin, New Jersey. Right?
Oh,
it's like hugely big on fluorescent minerals. You can collect there. They've got a wonderful museum. So if you're traveling down through northern New Jersey, it's worth the stop. You know, even if you don't collect, the museum is just fabulous.
Yeah, we did a couple shows here with a friend of mine that collected a lot in Franklin, and is it also the Sterling mine? Sterling,
yeah. There are 2 mines there,
down there, and I think they've since been filled in or closed off.
Closed off as actual working mines, but they have collecting dumps, and they have a big shindig down there every spring.
So what we're going to try to do for the show is maybe I'll take a couple of these rocks and put them under fluorescent light. I'll try to get some pictures at home.
Okay.
and through the wonders of our editing.
Yes.
No,
it's worth doing.
We'll add those in.
If people who collect fluorescent minerals either have to go out at night, which our club member who was into fluorescence actually was looking over at the Chelmsford Lime Quarry, went out there at night with his fluorescent light looking to see where they had actually mined the scheelite during World War II because it fluoresces.
Yeah, right? And the scapellite will also fluoresce over there.
And I've heard down in Franklin that people actually go out with, those covers they put on grills, those black things, that they buy those, so they put it over their heads, and they, crouch down in the middle of the day. They can use their black light to see what's on the ground, because during the daytime, you really can't tell what you're collecting.
So if you see someone that looks a little like a ninja, they may actually be looking for...
looks like a garbage bag walking around.
Right.
It's a clue. A little while ago, I think I put this in the pegmatite when I did it. There's a beach up on Lake Superior that has agates that fluoresce, and so people go out with their black nights at night to find these specific.
I missed that. I'll have to look for that.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of them, but it's some of the tests that you can do are really kind of limited. Like magnetism. There are very few minerals that are magnetic, right? There are a lot of minerals that are actually fluorescent that we don't know because we don't have these tools, right? One of the things you can do is collect it, bring it home, and try things.
I mean, on my bench, I have, it's nowhere near as orderly as this, but I'll turn the light off and just run the light over it, and it's quite interesting to see what fluoresces.
Again, it's also something to be careful with. You never look into these, into the light, the black light, because it's like, it's the UV radiation, the same thing as, looking at the sun, not good.
Good point.
The other tool that sometimes, occasionally I bring with me, depending on where we go, is a little bottle of hydrochloric acid. Dilute.
I wish I had some the other day.
Really dilute, because there's certain minerals that will fizz because they're carbonates. All right, so you had a piece of, we were debating whether it was the rhodonite. This is rhodonite, right? And then we've got this other pink mineral, lovely, right? This is rhodonite, which is a silicate. This might be rhodochrosite, which is a carbonate. Or it might be rhodonite, right? And the easiest way, they're very similar in color, very similar in hardness. If we had that bottle of hydrochloric acid, if we put it on here and it fizzed, we would know for sure. If I put hydrochloric acid on the rhodonite, it would not fizz, right? So there again, if we were mineral collecting out west, I would always have a bottle of hydrochloric acid with me because there are a lot of carbonate minerals out there. We don't have as many here. So
this would have helped me identify the calcite and other lime the minerals that contribute to lime.
I think you said you tried using vinegar on it?
I tried using vinegar.
And technically, it will react with it, but it's just such a slow reaction that
it's slow and it's very small, and I have no patience. So I'm just making a salad out there.
You're like my students. When we're doing, they love the hydrochloric acid because it's acid, right? And they want to put it on everything, and there's, most of the time it's not going to react, so it's a waste of hydrochloric acid.
Well, I'm looking to get some. So I've been looking at Edmunds Scientific and other,
you can pick it. But places. You need, 1.5 molar is probably sufficient, right? 0.05. I mean, 0.1 would be okay. That would work. You don't need to get stronger than that.
Okay, and that's a measure of strength. Molar.
Molar.
Okay. Okay. Well, see, I told you we'd have enough for another show.
I don't know. We'll have to talk about something else some other time.
This is great, Anita. This is given some good information. We've covered a bit of rocks and minerals and collecting.
Well, it's the one thing that I just hope people kind of look at what we're walking on.
Yes.
Because it is. I mean, not only is it what we're walking on, but it really is the source of most of the stuff that we use.
Yes.
I mean, if it wasn't for rocks and minerals, where would we be?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's where we get our metals from.
That's
and,
right.
You know, a lot of the stuff that we use.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff that we use.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's important to understand it.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And there's so much to look at when you're outside between rocks and minerals and trees and birds.
Right.
And
It
just, overwhelming.
Yeah, like the time we were collecting for the chiastolite, a few of us, and we came up with 2 other people, and they were collecting mushrooms.
Yes.
Yeah, so everybody has their thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, I really want to thank you for taking the time, sharing your knowledge.
Yep.
This has been wonderful, and
pleasure.
I hope you, the audience, enjoyed our show. I know it's all about rocks. I mean, it was enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Littleton Rocks.